A Turing test is a human-computer simulation named after Alan Turing, the character from the movie Imitation Game, about the British mathematician who broke the Nazi Enigma code. A Turing test is when you have a computer program that simulates a human based on the conversation with the program. Every year they have a Turing contest where people come in and have conversations through a PC. After the conversation, they have to guess if it's a person or a computer program pretending to be a person. Half are actual programs and half are real people via a remote interface. The programs that get the most votes from people who think that the programs are humans win the competition. One of the more interesting battles that happened in the realm of big business was the butter wars that happened in the last half of the 19th century. This is when margarine was invented and nobody could tell the difference between margarine and butter. It looked the same and tasted the same. The only difference was that margarine was about 10% of the cost. Since nobody back then knew anything about food and health, everybody stopped buying butter and started to buy margarine. The butter industrial complex wouldn't take this lying down, so they fought back by lobbying Congress to make laws making sure people knew the difference between butter and margarine. The margarine companies, of course, wanted everybody to think that they were the same, with the only difference being the price. René Descartes was a mathematician and a philosopher. His claim to fame is the famous quote, "I think, therefore I am." This was after his mind experiment referred to as Descartes' demon. This is the very same concept that people are talking about today. Namely, how do we know that we are not in a computer simulation? Any kind of test that we could conceive of that would prove one way or the other could itself be part of the simulation. Back in Descartes' day, instead of imagining a computer simulation, he imagined being possessed by a demon who was creating all we see as only a hallucination. His answer was that there is no way we can know whether this is real or if this is some kind of hallucination. All we know is that we exist. We know this because we can think, and we are aware of these thoughts that we are thinking. Because of this self-awareness of our thoughts, we exist. It's very common to think of hypnosis as an altered state of reality. There are many common examples. Highway hypnosis is when you start to pay less and less attention to this with your conscious mind. When your mind kind of drifts into autopilot mode. When you just kind of shut off your conscious thinking and let all of this slip into your unconscious. Movie hypnosis is similar. You relax and watch the screen in front of you. Listen to these words and let your mind drift along with whatever these words are saying. Or you could go and see a hypnotist. You watch this guy tell stories or listen to these words or simply just let these sounds go into your mind and give up control over your thinking. Then there are those who think that this is different, that the other way of thinking about this is much better than what most people used to think. This is something different. That hypnosis is when you turn off the hallucinations, when you pay close attention to what is really happening, that your existence is purely an internal one, an inside game, that it's based only on the thoughts inside your mind. That this hypnosis is not a way to go to sleep, but to become more aware of what's really going on, aware of what's really important. Of course, we may never know if we are in a simulation or not, but we do have an advantage over Descartes, and that is based on our current technology, we can imagine a time in the future when our computing power will have grown strong enough to actually create complicated enough software programs that will have software-generated entities within these that have self-awareness. So maybe we will be able to create these in the future, or maybe it is the future and we already are these computer-generated entities with self-awareness. Or maybe you are the only entity in the universe, and all of these words, all of your memories, all of your experiences are part of this hallucination. Eventually, the butter companies gave up. This is one reason why a lot of butter companies went to countries in Northern Europe to make butter. In that particular battle between individual consumer versus industrial complex, the consumer won. Unfortunately, back then, nobody knew that margarine was poison. Some believe that the first commercially available computers that will effectively and consistently pass the Turing test will be sex robots. Of course, they have TV shows like Westworld where they've mentioned a few times that they have passed various Turing tests. But since Turing tests are based on software and not realistic physical robots, it's likely that commercially available companions that are capable of passing the Turing test will be more conversational than not. And when you combine that with the idea of deepfake technology, it's probably just a matter of time before you see an image on a screen or hear a voice in a speaker that seems to be real but is really very artificial.